Hello, hello. Welcome to Revolutionary Pleasure. And I am so happy to have you all here. Happy for you, the folks who came live. I'm happy for the folks who signed up and are going to watch the recording. And, I'm going to just also throw a shout out there to the folks who sign up and we'll get the recording link and then we'll be like trying to figure out forever how are they going to make the time to watch this, because I do that too. I'm happy that you're all here because it means that we are feeling something similar. Like we're feeling this vibe, for lack of a better word. We're feeling this understanding that something else needs to happen here. The way that life is going right now is unsustainable, and we want to look for some answers that don't look like the old answers. So that's why I'm here today. And I'm so happy, however you're showing up, wherever you're showing up from, I'm happy you're here. So I just want to have you begin by stepping into some presence. We tend to rush. We go from like one thing to the next, and I want to just give you a space to actually transition. So first thing I'll invite you to do is find some connection to the ground. If it's your feet, wonderful. I'm going to put my feet in the ground, and I'm just going to notice how it feels to have my feet on the ground. Now you can be noticing with any part of you that can touch the ground, whether it is your butt, whether it is your feet, maybe it's your hands, maybe there's some part of you, maybe you're like lying in your back for this. Just notice what is calling to you, what's the desire that is calling to come out here. Just notice how this feeling of some contact with your body and the earth, notice how that affirms your presence. It affirms your life. It affirms that you have a body. And that body has desires, it has limits, it has a whole story that it wants to tell. Just take a few breaths here and just feel that. And just breathing, coming into presence, and then just give a little shake with whatever you've got going on. I'm just going to give a little shake of my hands and shimmy my shoulders a little bit just to get here, get present. So, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Sonia Semyonova. I'm a somatic intimacy coach, and my biggest passion is helping women reclaim their power by connecting to their eroticism. It's a whole beautiful thing that happens when we begin to see the connection between erotic energy and life force itself. We're going to go into that in this workshop today. So, I want to just invite, for the folks who are here live, I just want to invite you to drop a comment in the chat that best describes how you're feeling about the future, the state of the world right now, the kind of craziness that's happening in whatever part of the world you're in. You can drop an emoji in the chat, you can drop a word, but we're trying to get to what is that feeling that you have, that feeling that brought you here to this workshop. And for those who are watching the recording, just pause, feel, and see if you can locate an emotional state, a description of your emotional state that describes how you're feeling. I'm saying overwhelmed, disconnected from my power. That's super common right now. Lots of overwhelm, lots of overwhelm. How are you feeling? What describes your emotional relationship right now with the state of the world? Fascinated. Oh, that's an interesting one. Yeah. Fascinated. It is a very fascinating time. I would say that. Yes, it's a very fascinating time. And, there's many ways that we can look at the world right now, and that's one of them for sure. I just want to start out with an acknowledgement of the current political climate. So for the folks who don't know me, my story is a little funny. I live in Canada now. I live in British Columbia. I'm an immigrant, though. I'm American by birth, and it's really bizarre to watch my country of birth, the place that gives me my passport, watch it go through what it's going through right now. And I have often used the analogy that's like you're watching an ex like destroy themselves, and you're just like all you can do is be like, I left it, right? So I'm acknowledging that that's happening. And in many ways, it's been very, very heartbreaking for me to see my country just descend in the way it's descending. Not to say that Canada is perfect. Everyone in America is like, oh, Canada, yeah. We have problems up here. The statement that I want to get to is an acknowledgement that the current political climate, not just in America, but around the world, it is chaotic. It is confusing. It is decentering. And this is not just happening at the government level. This is happening at the personal level. Like a lot of people's lives are also kind of unraveling in really strange and interesting ways. At the same time, there's this political climate going on. There's this new political wave, there's a new political experience that we're having. I just want to say this, like right off the bat, I don't side, like I don't pick sides in politics. I think they're both disgusting, to be honest with you. And, I think that the more that we're asked to choose sides, the more that it decenters us. And so this is not about me having some agenda that like, I believe that there's supposed to be, this kind of person in power or that kind of person in power. What we're witnessing right now is the unraveling of a narrative that has been it's been hurting everybody, frankly, right? Like, so the current way that power systems are structured, the current way that governments are structured, it is all madness. It is all dividing us. And the more that we dig our heels into any one side of that division, the more that we hurt each other and ourselves. So what I will say, the side that I am on, because I am on a side, I am on one side, and the side that I am on is the one where we are acting from a place of shared humanity, of ethics, of community building, and a recognition that we have a responsibility to ourselves and to the collective and to the land. So that's the side. And that side, unfortunately, isn't held in any kind of one political party or a piece of legislation. Where it's held is in our bodies. And that's where we're going to go today. That's the focus of where we're coming in today. Got some folks still coming in here. In order to actually get to this place where we can really understand what that means, to be on that side of, shared humanity, of having strong ethics. What we have to do first as individuals is begin to understand what we are a yes to and what we are a no to. This is beyond the, kind of common teachings around consent, the no means no, right? What I'm talking about is an intuitive, energetic connection, a relationship with the body's messages. And when we have that, we become a lot more centered. We become a lot more able to see what's happening for what it is. In my opinion, what is happening right now is the systems that have been out of balance for centuries, they're dissolving on their own. There's very little that we have to do right now to topple that tower. Our work right now is far more about centering, about being prepared for what is coming. I'm not saying that it's easy. I'm not saying that this is just like, oh, okay, just like sit here and let it fall. We have a lot of work to do. And a big part of the work that we have to do is being able to learn what good feels like in our bodies, so that we just don't, all we're doing right now is we're just running from bad. We're running from bad. And you can see this with, every election, we're like, not that one, now this one, right? Like we've just run from bad. We do this in relationships as well. We leave partners. We say, oh, this one's done. I'm all done with this one, right? And that's in order to really visualize, in order to create, we have to begin to understand what feels good. What is our yes? What is our yes? This is not something we're taught. Like, I want to ask you, any of you, like maybe your parents, maybe you've learned it along the way. Like, have you ever done a study in terms of what your body actually likes? Like, have you ever had an education in your yeses? Like, have you ever done any deep dives, any research into what brings you pleasure? What turns you on? Some of you might have. Just drop a chat or an emoji into the chat, like a thumbs up or a yes or a no, to say, if you've ever done any kind of formal or informal research on what feels good in your body. I just want to get a sense of where everybody is. I have. Okay, so one person saying, I have. Yeah, I know you have. I know him. Yeah, and the point that I want to make here is this. When, like, by and large, like if you take the average, like just take sex education, okay? Sex education is focused on a lot of fear around what sex is. So this is how you get pregnant. This is how you get an STI. It's not taught, like we're not actually taught to have a relationship with our bodies where we say, we go in and we go, okay, this is how I actually like to be touched. And if we don't have that, then what we have is only this vague sense that we even have the ability to control how we're touched. And it begins that cycle of running from the bad. And I put these two together, like this is a conversation that we're having about the climate politically. And it's from my perspective, there is absolutely no boundary between what happens politically, what we're saying yes and no to, or what we're being numbed out to politically, and also what we're doing with our relationships. How we treat ourselves in our most intimate relationships is directly reflected in what we're doing outside, whether it's with our boss, whether it's with our elected officials, whether it's with anybody who's in a position of so-called authority over us. So here's the thing that I want to point out. Numbness. So in the beginning, somebody mentioned overwhelm. And that's a really common sense that people have right now. The news cycle is going like crazy, right? And so doom scrolling is a thing. It's a thing. We all have now, we basically have access to 100% of everything that we could ever want right there. And our ancestors did not have this. Our bodies are not equipped to hold the amount of information that we take in. So I'll give you an example. I was on TikTok. I love TikTok. And I have very much managed my algorithm. My feed there is amazing. It gives me pleasure and it gives me humor and it's wonderful and the right kinds of commentary on social politics, right? So I'm on TikTok this morning and something comes through that is talking about the descent into fascism, which is typically not something that's on my feed, but I was drawn in by the way that they were doing the storytelling. And so I was into it. I was watching it. It was quite a long video. It was probably on about 5 minutes long. Okay. So I'm sitting here, I'm watching that. I'm sitting with the reality of the descent into fascism. Okay. And this opinion that these reporters have. And then I flip to the next screen and there's some woman sitting on her bed delivering some humorous piece that has absolutely nothing to do with fascism, right? Like it's just the humor that I typically get, like the kind of revelry that I really enjoy about TikTok and the culture there. Now, think about the nervous system switch that happens. I actually logged off of the app because of it, because I was like, I need some time to process the first thing I just got. This is happening all the time. When we scroll through the average social media site, Instagram, TikTok, whatever, Facebook, if anyone even goes on Facebook anymore, When you're on there, you are constantly switching. You are constantly switching. We don't have the capacity to take in all the information that we're getting. And so what happens is the sense of overwhelm. Overwhelm is a response to feeling something that we're not ready to feel. Like it's overwhelm is like we are filled up. We haven't digested. We haven't released. And usually what we're filled up on is, in this case, anger and fear. This dissociation, it's a form of self-protection. I want to say that really clearly. Like if you're looking at the way that when someone goes into a traumatic experience, usually oftentimes they're going to experience some form of dissociation. They're in energetic terms, which is how I look at the world. The spirit actually leaves the body. The spirit goes whoop. It won't take it in. From a psychological perspective, they would talk about it in this terms of disassociation, where you're kind of like, I'm going to be like on the ceiling while this really horrible thing happens, because the brain can't actually, it's not able to take in what's happening. And it kind of leaves an imprint in your body, nonetheless, even though you're all the way up here. It leaves an imprint in your body. And at some point, you're going to have to deal with that. So I just want to say dissociation isn't necessarily a bad thing. That numbness, that overwhelm isn't a bad thing. It's a very smart form of protection that our bodies have developed. However, it's not a way of life, darlings. It is not a way of life. So we have to find something else. We have to find a way to reconnect with our body. Because here's what happens when we're in our bodies, okay? Just notice your breath right now. Just notice your breath. Just how is it? You can place a hand on your heart or your lungs, or you can maybe on your belly, your diaphragm here, just below your rib cage, and just notice just how is your breath? Is it short? Is it deep? Is it quick? Is it slow? This is something that is so simple. It's always available to you. And it is your life force. When I'm talking about power, what I'm talking about is your life force. Now, if you have studied the deeper teachings of yoga, or maybe Taoism, or any other kind of mind-body tradition, you'll understand the connection between breath and life force. The yogis call it prana. The Taoists call it qi. There's a reason that there's so much enthusiasm about this kind of Western style breath work right now, which has, I think it's wonderful and has many benefits. I'm much more of a classical pranayama person myself, but I'm all for anyone having breath, okay? And the reason for that is when the breath is in the body, you'll notice that when you're anxious, the breath is quick and fast. If you're depressed, it might be actually there's a slowness to the breath. You're not taking in, or maybe not going as deep, or you're kind of holding it. When the breath is fluid and flowing, we have access to our life force. The other thing that we have access to, this is the most important part, why we're all here today. When you have breath, you can get turned on. You have access to your erotic charge. And it might sound silly or trite to say that, if you're horny, that means that you're in your power, but it is one and the same. Again, a lot of the traditions that I have studied, a lot of the spiritual traditions I've studied, yoga, Taoism, these are very much concerned with breath and erotic energy. It's been known for centuries that when we're turned on, we feel more vital. We feel more alive. We feel ready for whatever the world's going to throw at us. This is one of the things I wanted to say. I wanted to actually talk about a story of how I came to understand something that I know to be true now, that's been backed up by since studying a lot of Taoist sexual practices. Okay, so life force exists best in the lower parts of our bodies. So when we are in our pelvises, like when we are existing in our pelvises, life force can really flow through us. I came to learn this in 2016. The first time was I started to really see this trend. 2016 was the first election year. I just moved to Hawaii, and I moved and I was working at this retreat center. And one of the jobs that I had was I was doing intuitive healing work with people, doing energy work with people. It's been something I've been doing since I was, I don't know, in my young 20s, my first sort of spiritual journey, right? So I was seeing tons of people coming through, people who were coming through for retreats and trainings and et cetera. And I started to see this really bizarre trend that I had never seen before. People, like when I look at a person's energy, it's possible to see kind of where they're occupying their body. And what I kept seeing undeniably was that people were cut off at the navel. Like they just did not extend to the ground. This was 2016. It was 4 years before COVID. It was the first time that Trump got elected. There was a tremendous amount of fear. Okay. There was a lot of this, like before that, what I would describe as some kind of complacency, like everything was fine-ish, like nothing was dramatically awful. And then in this time frame was like we all started to be like something's in the collective right now, okay? Now again, this was not just the collective issue. People were having personal issues. People who were coming to this retreat center were coming with like massive digestive issues. They were talking to me about how terrible their relationships were. They like nobody could find anyone to love. Like all of a sudden people stopped wanting sex and partnership. Fear and anxiety, right? All of these things came and I'm not saying that the people like I don't know what came first, right? Like I don't know if they jumped out of their pelvises first or all of these issues push them out of their pelvises. I don't know. I also don't think that it's like I don't think that something like an election can have the kind of power that can like force us all to jump out of our bodies. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. Some people are conspiracy theorists. I actually believe it's a lot more organic, somewhat chaotic. I don't think that a group of people have the kind of control that the conspiracy theorists would have us believe that they do. This is a collective response. We are all creating this. We are responding to something that we see that we think is scary or that makes us angry, and our bodies respond. And what I know to be true is that every single person in this world, you all on this call, you all watching the recording, every single person has the ability to read another person's body signals like an animal. In the same way that a dog will know that you are afraid of it. We have that ability. So when I say that there's this collective shift happening, that's how I believe it's happening. Less about, a group of people in a boardroom somewhere, more about a flocking, the way that birds flock, the way that you watch birds and these like the starlings and these massive flocking patterns, right? Like they're just following the energy that exists within the whole collective. And so what I want to say is this is the hope in that, right? Because I actually am on the side of believing that we have to allow these systems that have been oppressive to many people, that have been very, very harmful, very violent. We have to allow them to fall, and we have to be ready to create something in the aftermath. Because if we are shaped by this collective, if we are part of that flocking, then we have the ability to flock. We have the ability to shift. We have the ability to move in a different direction if we make that choice. If we make that choice. And that choice comes from learning how to be more embodied, how to be turned on, how to fall in love again, how to not be afraid of that, how to shine, how to be okay with having erotic charge, and how to be cool with like letting everyone else around you have erotic charge, have the turn on that they want. Because when I am turned on, the coolest thing that happens is that I actually want other people to be turned on. Like when I am really existing in that power in my body, when I have a connection to my erotic energy and I'm circulating it and flowing it in my body, I want everyone else to have the same. That's my experience with everyone who's ever gone through anything like this. So, I want to ask in the chat here, does anyone consider themselves kind of an activist, or were you at some point? Like, just give me a yes or no in the chat. I want to hear just where are people at? Have you ever considered yourself to be some form of activist, or do you consider yourself to be one now? Meaning, like, I want to speak out against injustice. Let's see a yes. Yeah, me too. And now my question for you is this. My question for you is this. If you have ever considered yourself some form of activist, or like a person who gives a shit, like that's what I would describe as kind of an activist, like a person who cares about the state of the world and wants to do something different, right? Do you feel a little cynical that the old methods are no longer working? Do you feel a little bit afraid that you don't have the tools that can combat the level of intensity that we're experiencing, the tone deafness that we're experiencing? You feel fired up and have no idea where to go with it. Yeah, I do, but I'm looking for softer ways. Yep. I feel motivated to do more and create change. Wonderful. This is amazing. I love hearing that. Love hearing that. This is what we're here for, right? Like, I'm not going to be here to tell you like shit's bad, we're all going to die, right? Like, you can watch the news and get all that. I am not that person. And one of the reasons I'm not that person is because I had the like yelling in the streets activist days, right? And I learned very quickly that the leaders weren't listening. Leaders in quotes weren't listening, because to listen to us demanding change would require them to rebel against the very system that gave them authority. That's a big deal. And so what happens in traditional activism is that you've got, like, on the elemental level, you've got fire fighting against fire. And so that's why it's so easy for us all to get burned out. It's easy. Like, I can't tell you how many people I know that are in my world, and they're just like, oh yeah, no, like I can't. I am not, like, I know that we should probably be like in the streets marching, but I just can't. I'm done. Because it's not working. It's not working. What we're recognizing is that if we're burnt out, if we have no juice, no vitality, there's nothing to build from, right? We're just bleeding ourselves dry. This system wants us to be shaken, dissociated, sexually repressed. It wants us to be in a state of constant emotional chaos. And I'm telling you, let's come home to something different. Yes, I love that quote. You don't have to set yourself on fire in order to light up the world. Exactly. I want to see us find the fire from within. I want to see us understand what it means to claim and own our erotic energy. Because it's like we've got this beautiful source of power within us. And it's like this amazing, like it's like we've been given a Porsche, right? We have a Porsche that each of us come in with, this erotic energy that we have. And nobody knows how to drive the Porsche. Nobody knows how, like where do you put the keys? Like, is that a manual? Is it a 6-speed, right? Like, nobody knows what to do. And so you either ignore the Porsche in the driveway and you're like, I'm going to crash that if I even get behind the wheel, or you give it to someone else to drive. You tell yourself that this is okay. You let someone else drive your erotic energy, meaning, look at this is the typical model in relationships as it's gone out, is like we exchange erotic energy. For women, we typically exchange erotic energy for some form of protection. This is historical, whether it's financial or physical, right? Like this is a historical need that our ancestresses passed down to us, and it is no longer necessary. It is outdated. It no longer applies. And so we have to do this work to draw our erotic energy back to us, to learn how to use it, to learn how to make it turn into that inner fuel that is not going to be used just in yelling on the streets, but like understanding your limits, understanding your boundaries, understanding your yeses and your nos, understanding and following your desires. Because I really believe that if we were to tune in to what it is that we actually want, we're going to find that what we actually want is that statement of that side, right? Like we actually want things to feel really good. We want some form of ethics. If we were to really break down, is there a form of like human selfishness that exists? Yeah, I'm not going to get into that. That'll be a different workshop. But ultimately, what I've seen is that whenever I have guided a client through doing desire work, what they ultimately come to is this kernel of love that is underneath everything. It's underneath every anxious action. It's underneath every obsessive move that you've ever made. Everything boils down to love. We just have to allow it to get there. So I have replaced my activism days with a lot of pleasure, a lot of what feels really good, a lot of not just heart opening, because I love the heart opening stuff. I think it's wonderful. There's nothing wrong with it. But I'm talking about pelvis opening, getting into the part of our bodies that is most animal aligned, getting into that part that is going to help us really recognize that we are reading the room, recognize that we are actually like to believe when our intuition hits us that that's actually correct. To actually to enjoy life. Like, fuck, like, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? That it is possible. It doesn't mean that you're going to drop into like kind of like a hedonism that is harmful when you begin to focus on enjoying life. Like, I feel that most people who don't do that enough, they're going to think that they're way overshooting. They're going to think like, oh my God, I'm going to be super selfish and, become hedonistic, but it's going to be kind of in the middle. Like you're just giving yourself pleasure and joy. So there are three things that I really want to impart here about why pleasure is so amazing as a tool for the revolution. And I'm going to just three things here. There are so many, but I'm going to limit it myself to three today. Okay. So first of all, it teaches us boundaries. It teaches us, what we like, what we don't like. And then when we know that, when we have the sense of what we like and what we don't like, we are a lot harder to shake. It's going to be a lot harder for something or someone to come along and try to gaslight us into believing that this is the only way to go. Okay. So the second thing is that pleasure resets a fried out nervous system. So if you have the ability to practice moving into a conscious state of relaxation, what you're doing is you're creating a flexibility in your nervous system. Okay. In my somatic studies, one of the things that I have learned is that it's not bad to become activated. It is not bad to feel what you might call that kind of fight or flight, that sympathetic side of the nervous system. You actually want that. It's just that we have an overemphasis on that. There's far too much of that, and it's just an imbalance. In fact, too much relaxation is not the answer either. You need the activation. You need to have both in balance. And so when we use pleasure, what we're doing is we're allowing ourselves to, first of all, recenter, to reprioritize what you might call the rest and digest or the parasympathetic nervous system response. We're allowing ourselves to develop a home there that will become like kind of a base so that when we need to go into action, it's not like the only thing that we're doing. And okay, so I'm just going to tell you really quickly because this is where I get really nerded out. I just want to share with you something about how the nervous system works. And then we're going to drop into a practice in a minute here. Um, turn on happens. It requires us to be relaxed. Requires us to be relaxed. You can't get turned on if you're anxious. Doesn't work. And so we then drop into that relaxation. And then we begin to find more activation as the turn on grows. So think about orgasm, right? So in order to begin to even think about sex, you have to be in a parasympathetic state. So we're breathing, we're calming down, which we're going to do in a minute here. And then when you get closer to orgasm, you're getting more and more activated. So it's actually a sympathetic response. So just put that in your toolkit here. Okay, the third thing is why I love pleasure is that it creates an alternative way of being that is not just fear and anger. It it gives us a different sense of what's possible. It allows us to be more whole. It allows us to see ourselves as capable of all of these things. Okay, great. So I am noticing that I am like way over and talking a lot. So we're gonna drive into the guided practice. So I mentioned in the emails that this is going to be cameras off for folks who are catching up on the recording. You're welcome to do this by taking your eyes away from the screen. And so I just want to invite you to get a little cozy, find a space where you feel like you can be a little bit relaxed, like finding that parasympathetic nervous system state. So, whether that is lying down or maybe sitting back in a chair. And as you find your space, just notice what your body feels like right here. Where are you feeling tension? Where are you feeling expansion? Are you cold? Are you hot? Just ground yourself in exactly where you are right now. It's nothing to change, nothing to do about it. Just notice. And begin to breathe in through your nose, ideally. And as you're breathing in, as you're exhaling, make those exhales longer than the inhales. This is a conscious way to invite relaxation, to bring yourself into that parasympathetic state. So, inhaling and then just slowing down that exhale. So, it's longer than the inhale. If you want, you can count. You don't have to. You can just know. I'm going to do about 5 more breaths like that. Just inhaling and then a longer exhale. And go at your own pace too. Just noticing what your body, what your long exhale feels like. Your lung capacity is not mine. It is not anyone else's on this call. And now on your next exhale, you'll begin to sweep your hands down the space that exists just in front of your body. Okay, you're not touching your body yet. You're just working with that, we call it your aura. Just bringing your hands down in a sweeping motion and begin to slow it down. Begin to maybe sweep along different parts of you. Maybe your face wants a little bit more, your shoulders or arms. Notice what it feels like to affirm that space just outside of your physical body. Inhaling and then just sweeping down here. If you can kind of tease yourself a little bit, again, we're not giving in to touch fully, but you're just grazing the air around your body. You can play with eyes open or eyes closed, depending on what gets in the way. See what gets you into your body more and out of your head. And now I want you to just find a spot on your body that calls to you and hover your hand over there. Don't touch your body yet. You're not allowed to touch your body. Let your hand hover over one part of your body. Everything is an erogenous zone here, by the way. It doesn't have to be your primary ones that you're aware of. Let your hand hover close, but not quite touching. Feel the air between you and your skin, your physical body. Maybe you notice warmth. Maybe you feel some kind of pressure or tension. Make sure you're breathing. Again, you're not touching it. Notice if you can tune into any bit of the kind of erotic tension that you might have before you kiss a lover, drawing this back to you. And now, in a moment, you're going to touch this part of your body, not quite yet. First, you're going to tune in. You're going to ask this part of you, how do you want to be touched? Maybe it wants soft, feathery strokes, maybe little scratches, maybe a full on digging your nails in. Maybe it's a little slap. And now go ahead and give that to yourself. Find out how you want to receive your touch and then give yourself that pleasure. Maybe the minute you do that first form of touch, it changes. And that part of you wants a different kind of touch. Play with it. Give your body what it wants to receive, exactly as it wants to receive it. Now we're going to experiment a little. Go to a different part of your body. And again, don't think, just move to any part of you and just bring your hand there again, just on the outside of your body. Don't touch it yet. You're not allowed to touch your body yet. You're going to build that same kind of tension. You're going to notice the energy that exists within you. That's your life force. That's your erotic charge. And even if you feel it just a tiny, tiny bit, it's still there. Again, eyes open or closed is fine. Just notice. And now bring your hand to touch it exactly as that part of you wants to be touched. I'm enjoying a lot of very firm pressure here and really leaning into how my body is asking to be touched. Play with it. If you don't know, if you're not getting an answer, just try something and be slow. And now begin to move your hand along, starting with that part of your body that it was centered in. Begin to move your hand along slowly, sensually, in whatever form sensuality takes for you. Like, how would you ask a lover to touch you if you knew you would not be rejected? Maybe you want to move your body, change your posture. Maybe you're going to find something like maybe you want to spread your legs and begin to explore what it feels like to be big, to take up space. Maybe you want to explore what it feels like to get small, a little coy, a little shy, a little flirtatious. Begin to find an expression that calls to you, moving your hand along your body, seducing yourself, allowing yourself to be both seductor and seducted. And in a moment, you're going to find a posture, but I want you to explore and see what's most alive for you. And that posture you're going to find is just what's the expression that you are aching to explore? What will make you feel most alive, most sensual, most turned on? Is there a persona that you want to take on? Maybe you're standing up to assert your dominance. Maybe you're just going to cross your legs. Find a posture and hold it. And notice what it feels like to give yourself permission to be an erotic being. Follow whatever desire you have, holding that position, holding that posture. Maybe little movements are okay, but I want you to stay in the energy that you've identified, that you want to experience. So I want your body to soak in the experience of this expression. Are you breathing? Let your breath and your posture affirm your radiance, your magnetism. Let it show you where your yes is and maybe where a no is. What if you could feel 10% more turned on? How would you follow that? How would you explore that? What if you could feel 10% more radiant, more magnetic, more sexy? How would you walk through life? How would you speak to your figures of authority if you knew that you were holding an endless well of life force energy? Are you breathing? Great. Thank you. Thank you. We're going to do one final closing practice. So if you were standing, then I'll invite you to sit down. You're going to take your hands and you're going to place them, this part of the base of the palm, right at your iliac crest, what you might call your hip bones. And your fingers are down. And you're going to press inward. It's best if your legs are uncrossed for this, by the way. You're just going to press inward, firmly holding those bones of your pelvis, pressing them inward, and you're adding pressure from both sides. And you're breathing. And as you breathe, you're going to repeat this affirmation. This is my body. This is the home of my power. This is my body. This is the home of my power. One more time. This is my body. This is the home of my power. Bringing the palms of your hands to your sacrum. Once again, fingers down, and you're going to be putting pressure on your sacrum, pressing inward, pressing toward the front of your body. You're bringing your awareness to the sacrum. Maybe you want to even get into your tailbone if you can get in there. And you're going to repeat this affirmation. speaking perhaps more from your pelvis. This is my body. This is the home of my power. This is my body. This is the home of my power. This is my body. This is the home of my power. Release. And you're going to take the palms of your hands and you're going to lay them on top of each other, and you're going to the pubic bone. So the front side of the pelvis. Your hands right on top of each other, and again, fingers facing downward. Your hands might be directly on top of your genitals here, and just notice what that contact feels like. And again, pressing in, gentle and firm pressure. You don't want to break your bones here, but you want to notice. You want to notice something is there. Holding, repeating 3 times. This is my body, and this is the home of my power. This is my body. This is the home of my power. This is my body. This is the home of my power. And release. Pause and just notice. At the beginning, you noticed what your body felt like, and just notice now. What's similar? What's different? What's more alive for you? Is anything creating fear or maybe some numbness? Are you noticing some numbness here? Just see it, no judgment. So I'm curious if folks want to share anything in the chat. Chat's been a little quiet today. It's okay, I don't care. But just, I would love to hear if anything surprised you or if anything came through to you while you were doing that little practice. It was such a mini taste of what it can feel like to have turn on in your body, to be able to give that to yourself. To not necessarily, I mean, it's great to have a partner to do this with. There's nothing wrong with having a partner. But ultimately, when you're able to return to your turn on in such a simple way as enjoying your own touch, there can be such beauty that exists there. Felt more present. Okay, felt more present, but usually presence came with a dose of anxiety. And this time I feel present but calm. Yeah. Yeah, presence. I gotta speak to that because sometimes when we drop into the body, if we've been used to being out of the body, it can feel fucking scary. And the part of the reason for that is because we're tapping into that power, right? It's that line that Marianne Williamson quote of like, it's not that we're afraid of it failing, it's that we're actually afraid of this is a paraphrase, we're afraid of how great we can be. That's why being numb and dissociated is allowing all of this to happen. When we are aware of our power, it's going to be really easy to shift that flock in a different direction. Okay, so we're going to move toward closing up. And in order to close up, what I want to talk about is next steps. For those of you who have gotten something out of this, then there's 2 next steps that I will offer you. One is your own exploration. It's something that you'll take on your own, and it's simply to just spend the next week noticing noticing your yes and your no, taking note of it. You can actually take a little journaling practice and just noting where you might be bypassing your no, where you might be not acknowledging your yes. And then come into that form of self-touch, some form of self-touch that just affirms you in the body here. And the second one is for those of you who feel really called to do something bigger. Now, all of that I've shared here, I've been talking a lot about us versus this like nebulous power structure that that the government or the authority figures that exist at the corporations, right? Like I've been talking about that. And I will say that the reason that this has happened is because we've been taught to outsource our power. We've been taught to believe that other people can make decisions on our behalf, even if we don't really trust that they're making good decisions, right? We have this habit, like it's happens on the macro level in terms of like our consumer practices, in terms of who we're voting for or not voting for, right? It also happens on the micro level. If we're doing it out there, we are certainly doing it in our intimate relationships. It might seem like a jump to go from government to partnership to intimacy, but like the way that we give ourselves over to one is absolutely reflected in the other. And when we practice at the micro level, we can act at the macro level. I firmly believe that. If we were to spend time reclaiming our erotic energy, rather than putting all of our life force into the fear of the world ending, or that like obsession that happens when we have an ex that we can't get off our minds, we would be powerhouses. We would be unstoppable. And so this is why I'm on this mission right now. I'm on this mission with this new program that I'm offering called the Heartbreak Cure. And it is about teaching women to come and reclaim their power, beginning with recognition that we have tremendous amounts of power that we just lose in relationships and sexuality. I've been in the habit of studying the power that exists within love and within sexuality for nearly a decade. And the Heartbreak Cure is kind of like the book of love that you never got. That's the way that I'm seeing it. And basically the way that it works is it's partly self-paced, also with some intensive one-on-one time with me to help you recenter and focus on pulling both your energy and your mental effort and your physicality away from old relationships, coming back into you as the center of your own love life. And when you truly believe that you are the center of your love story, you're going to be a lot harder to knock off balance, whether it's from someone who comes along and tries to fuck with your mind in a relationship, or some elected leader. I guarantee you this is all related. And so we start with the micro because the macro is far too big a bite for us to handle. So we start with the micro. So if you're at all interested, what I want to offer you is I'm going to drop something into the chat. Whoops, not in the waiting room chat. I'm going to drop this link into the chat. And if you want to explore what this is like, this is a free session with me. It's a free hour-long session. You have to book by next Friday. So that is the 23rd. You have to book that call by next Friday. It's only going to be open for a week, but it's a free one-on-one hour-long session with me. And in it, we are going to talk about your history of erotic energy, of the intimacy wounds that you might be carrying and how they might be affecting what you're doing with the collective. So, and I'm only offering 5 spots. That's the other piece of it. I'm not going to, I just don't have the time on my calendar to offer this to every single person who signed up for this call, but I do want to offer it 5 people who want to show up and just get some one-on-one time with me. There's no obligation to sign up for the Heartbreak Cure. It is a way for us to assess if it's the right fit for you, but it's also just a gift for you, okay? So that's my gift for you today. That's the one. If you're ready to go deeper, then take me up on this. I'm going to close it at 5 spots. So jump on it now. By the time tomorrow, we had 40 something people sign up for this. Everyone's going to watch the recording. So I would recommend that you get on it as soon as possible if it calls to you. So I'm going to, in a minute, pause the recording and ask if you have questions that you want to chat about. I know that we're over time, so if people don't want to have questions, you can always email me and I will get around to the questions. But before I do that, just for the sake of closing the call for the recording, because I'm not going to record the people's individual questions, I'm very conscious of the fact that you're on a free call, and I don't think that you want your personal lives all over the internet. But I just want to say thank you. Thank you. If you can't stay for any part of the Q&A, I just want to say thank you for coming, because every time I see people who are in agreement with me that this is not the end, at least it's not an end, that this is actually something that is a tremendous opportunity for us to create the life that we actually like, the world that we actually want to live in, one that values sexuality and eroticism and love, maybe more than we value violence and war. Like, imagine that. Imagine if that were the world that we had. And if you take anything from tonight, then I hope it's this, that your body and your pleasure, your erotic power is a valid form of power. Power is not just your physical strength or your ability to intellectually wrestle someone to the ground. Seduction is a form of power. Eroticism is a form of power, and it is a kind of power that the world desperately needs right now. It is the way to balance what is imbalanced. It is the way to bring about the kind of world that will help us all want to be alive in it. So let's start flocking in a different direction. We're going to pause